Hello everybody. This is Morten from INKISH TV, and today I have the honor to talk to Mr. Peter Sommer, who is an advisor for the Elanders printing group in Germany. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to him today is because when Heidelberg rolled out the new strategy that they announced a couple of weeks ago, he was one of the very critical voices in the industry. And I find that when people on such a high level in the printing industry raises their voice, everybody should listen. So welcome, Peter. It's an honor to see you here on INKISH TV. So before we get started talking about too many details, tell my audience a little bit, who are you?
Hello, Morten. First of all, I must say it's the first online interview I do.
For me too.
But it feels quite okay, I must say. So some words about me. I founded my own company light years ago. I think it's 45 years now, and I sold the company now 15 years ago to the Elanders group. Since then, I was there as the president for the print and packaging division worldwide, and I was member of the Elanders board, and I was responsible for a turnover in print and packaging of about 270 million euros. So we have many printing plants all over the world, and we have the complete digital printing plant in Weiblingen, close to Stuttgart, where we have a lot of indigo presses and 4 inkjet presses. So we have quite everything.
Peter, would you say that Elanders is, because I read that in your Swedish organization 2 years ago, sold off all your offset presses. And are you like a company that is totally focused on digital printing?
No. We still have a lot of offset presses. We have offset plants, for example, in Hungary and Poland, with web offset and sheet fed offset. And we have, let's say, most of the plants we have offset, still have offset. The only plant is Weiblingen, where we only have digital printing.
So when you look at Elanders, what market are you serving? Is it like a specific market, or are you an all-round printing company, or what? How would you describe your doing and services to the industry?
Yeah, we serve the big customers in the industry. Mostly on top, it's the automotive industry. Unfortunately, at the moment, but we also serve publishers. We are in the business area of packaging. That's completely the complete range, I would say.
So when you as a person and you represent quite a big group of business, basically, right? So when you raise your concerns about strategies like the one that we spoke about Heidelberg, is that because it's something that hits your company specifically, or is it more like general considerations concerns you have? Yeah,
I would say we were thinking about having the big Heidelberg, the XL press, the 162. We have been talking about with Heidelberg for packaging, and now they stopped producing this machine. Fortunately, we didn't sign a contract for that, and I must say, if that comes surprisingly. It's a disaster for the customers. And if somebody has signed a contract or has already installed a press like this, it's simply a disaster. And I know how things are going. We have some Dimatrix die cutters in our print and packaging, which Heidelberg does not produce since 2 years, I think. And we can see that the service is going to be lousy, that the spare parts are not being delivered or delivered late. So it was not a good investment at all for us.
So your concerns, and I for the people who haven't seen or heard about it, is that Heidelberg is basically they are turning the back to the Prime Fire inkjet machine that they introduced at the last Drupa. and they are also turning down Excel formats of offset and focusing on B1 machines, basically.
Yeah.
When you look at, I mean, so what I understand from what your concerns is that it's not just from an Elanders perspective and from a Peter Sommer perspective. It's because you also believe that the decisions and the conversations that Heidelberg has put into market is basically wrong from a market perspective. Is that correctly understood?
That is correctly understood. So for the customers of Heidelberg is not longer a stable partner, which they have been over decades. So I grew up with Heidelberg. I remember when I started a printing company, I bought a Heidelberg GTO one color press, and since all my business life, Heidelberg was more or less a good partner.
Yeah. So when you I mean, because the concern is basically that if you have like the really large players in the market, like Heidelberg and like the other both analog and digital suppliers, when they change dramatically strategy, that is also a sign on, I guess, how they see the future of the printing industry more in general, isn't it?
I don't know if they see the future in the printing industry. I'm not sure about that. They started to step into the digital printing business many years ago with the Nexpress, without having an idea about what can the business model look like with such a digital press. Then they stopped it, and then they started again with the prime fryer, again having no idea. And stopped it again.
Yeah. So and that turns a little bit back to, because one of your comments was that if you don't have a digital mindset for what you're doing, then basically you develop in blind. And one of the things that I asked Hundsdorf about when I met him at the online print symposium was if they were not developing anything in digital because they've been so focused on other things. And his response to me was that they spent 50% of their R&D budget on digital. And he also said to me that there was no reason to have investing in print heads because there's so many good print heads in the market. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if a company like Heidelberg isn't able to develop core technology, and I guess we can agree that printhead is core technology, then who? So what are they spending all the money on, you think?
Somehow it reminds me a little bit in the automotive industry. They always spend a hell of money for new developments, and it's the same for Heidelberg. There were many engineers. There were lots of people integrated in this project, and this costs money. Mm. And at the end, it was a Speedmaster platform with Fuji printheads.
So what you're saying is that basically when he talks about 50% development in our R&D cost it's more like in the platforms, or more like the hardware platforms rather than the technology and understanding the market and the segments in which kind they want to address this. Is that okay?
Yeah. For me, it's simply not clear how you can spend that amount of money when you have an existing platform. You use the existing platform and you buy some inkheads from Fuji.
Maybe they 50% of a small budget. Who knows?
Yeah, okay.
So when we look at the printing industry in general, I mean, right now, of course, everybody is holding their breath due to the coronavirus for two reasons. Yeah. I was just wondering when you look with your experience and your, I mean, you have a deep understanding of the market, of course. How will the market look after coronavirus? And I'm asking this because I believe that also the strategies that we're talking about when it goes digital and digital print, things like that, do you think the market will revert to before Corona crisis, or do you think it will be different after this terrible time?
I think it will be completely different because of there are so many. I talk now about the German printing market. There are so many printers on the market. Before Corona, they just were able to survive so la la. without having the possibility to invest. Maybe they are over-invested and whatever. And I'm afraid that after Corona, there will not be so many printers left.
So that will leave maybe a little bit smaller market, but to fewer players in the market. But that is not too bad, because that is like, I think that's the nature of capitalism, that you basically demand and supply is more in balance. So the Corona in that sense can be a positive thing, right? Sorry to say so, but you know,
it's exactly my thinking as well.
So I agree with you. I think that the market will change, and I think that there will be not like the normal market when we go back to this, and that puts things even more in perspective, because I think that. One of the agendas that's been on the market for all segments in the printing industry for some years now has been mass customization, products down to one, or individualized print even in smaller batches. And that is, I guess, one of the reasons why you are so critical towards Heidelberg's strategy, because the market will even need digital print solutions even more after the Corona crisis.
Yeah. Especially, let's say it like this, when you look on packaging. In packaging, offset will be the dominating technology for the next 20 years. There will be, you don't need a lambda press, you don't need a prime fire press in packaging. Offset is the choice. But when you look on the commercial print market, I can see in the last 2-3 years it has already changed dramatically. Now I look on the automotive industry. We have produced millions of car catalogs every year. And then the decision from Daimler was, from one moment to the other, we don't produce any car catalog. For me, it was logic, because the car catalogs in the meanwhile have been lousy. It was not sexy. It was cheap paper and all these things. And they stopped it. And they had no printing in the car dealer houses at all. I was at a car dealer, and the only paper I got was the business card of the sales reps.
Not even the invoice.
But then it started at the automotive industry that they said, okay, we need something to give to the customer or send to the customer. And then the revival of the individualized car catalog, based on the configuration you made with the dealer or the sales rep in the car house, and send them his personalized, individualized catalog. This is something what's going on, and we do that for Porsche. We will start to do that for Mercedes. It will not be millions of catalogs, but it will be some 100,000s, and it will be individualized, and the profit will be much better than it was before with the millions of catalogs.
That was my point. That is like the entire value chain is changing, right? And that puts things in perspective even more when you talk about the Heidelberg strategy, because if you look at mass-produced catalogs, like you just mentioned for the car industry, the value for both the reader or the consumer of the magazine, as well as for the salespeople who want to have something that can connect the future, what's it called? Is basically now. And so when you, for example, produce these car catalogs, it's because it has a higher value for everybody involved in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that means that now that opportunity Heidelberg is apparently laying off, because, I mean, don't you think, it's a little kind of a leading question, but don't you think that if Heidelberg and Hundsdorfer at the same time announced a strategy where they wanted to go full into digital commercial print as well and develop everything from scratch and everything, and they had like a time for where they would go, that the message would have been perceived totally different?
I don't think that they, as we already said, they have no idea about what to do with this press.
Okay.
And the message would be
it would be untrustworthy. Is that what? Yeah. Okay. So what should they do?
They should. My view is that Heidelberg in some years will be a very small machine manufacturer producing B1 presses and having, let's say, 2,000-3,000 people on that level. They will survive for the next years.
And that is, if that forecast or prediction comes to market, that is like a tremendously different Heidelberg than the one we know today.
Yeah, of course. It will only be a shadow of today, as it is also only a shadow of 10, 15 years ago.
And the interesting thing is that when you, for example, say that you were about to buy a 162 machine, at the same time, and you say that packaging will be most likely analog for many years to come, they are basically writing off the only market where the offset machines have a really true value.
Yeah, clear. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the business is left to Koenig & Bauer and Komori and RGMC. Is that the conclusion on this one?
I see at the moment the winner is Koenig & Bauer. Mm-hmm. They look very stable. They don't make every price. At the moment we talked, not at the moment, 3 months ago, we talked about investing in a B1 press, 6 color plus varnish, and we talked with Heidelberg. We talked with Koenig & Bauer, and Koenig & Bauer, and on some point said, okay, this is our price. We don't go deeper. And Heidelberg was by far the cheapest for this press. And this is also a sign when a company is doing everything to get the job, then the water is like here.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's exciting times. I think that you have given a very interesting insight in your both in your opinions, but also from a perspective that I don't think so many people know. Because I mean, I guess that the purchasing power Elanders represent is, I guess, significant to every vendor in the industry. So what you say, they should listen to you, shouldn't they?
Of course.
Like you should listen to all your customers, of course. Peter Sommer, it was such a pleasure to talk to you right now. And also thank you for writing good things about INKISH on especially Andreas Weber's work.
I'd like to read your articles. It's refreshing in regards to the other printing newspapers or magazines. Thank you, Morten. Very good job.
Thank you very much.